Hey everybody, it's David Dyer, and welcome to Idioms episode 41. I'm your host, and Idioms is my mini-cast. 5 minutes at the most, about the same time it takes to scoop out 4 litter boxes because your daughter brought her cats home with her. And as the name implies, I talk about idioms, those phrases we say in everyday conversation that seem completely out of place, yet you know exactly what they mean by the way they're being used. Good, so let's go. This is Idioms episode 41, and the idiom we're going to cover today is... that costs an arm and a leg. You've heard it. So Gaga hires me to do a charcoal sketch of her and her boyfriend, and I'm like, okay, but that's gonna run you about $500. And she says, how much if I have my dog in the picture too? And I say, well, since I'm allergic, that's gonna cost you an arm and a leg. And none of this poker face thing either. Smile. Literal meaning, to assign a monetary value to your limbs, preferably the right ones. You'll hear why later. Contextual meaning, a phrase used to emphasize how ridiculously expensive something is. So let's explore the origin. A few different theories on this one, and to be honest, they all sound kind of valid. But as I mentioned, the phrase is used to describe something that is overpriced, and similar phrases exist around the world. In France, they say, it costs the eyes from the head. Yuck. And in Bulgaria, they say, it cost one's mother and father. Sounds like things are a little rougher in Bulgaria. But phrases.org.uk says one theory on this is that it comes from portrait painters. Long ago, before the birth of the camera, public figures, families, whoever would often commission an artist to paint a picture of them. Well, those artists charged a fee to paint your likeness, and the story goes that those fees were often tied to the amount of your body that was going to be included in the picture. The cheapest option was to be depicted from the shoulders on up. However, if you wanted more of your body included, perhaps an arm and a leg, well, that was going to run you a little more. They also say that even though this theory's been tossed around for ages, there's no real proof that that's where the phrase came from. But it does make sense. Another theory put forth by knowyourphrase.com is that the saying is the evolution of a couple of idioms that have been around since the 18th century. Those two go, I would give my leg, or I would give my right arm. I alluded to this earlier, but why the right arm? Well, if you've been listening to idioms for a while, and boy, you better hope you have, you may remember that superstition plays a huge part in some of these sayings, especially ones dating all the way back to the Roman Empire, when everything on the right was considered good and everything on the left meant bad news. And over the course of history, this right and left thing has played out in many ways. In fact, many a left-handed child were forced to learn how to write with the right hand because lefties were considered evil. The point is, over the course of a majority of recorded history, the right has always held more value over the left. So, being willing to part with your right arm meant a little bit more. And finally, let's shine some light on the way it's used today and where its origin would probably make the most sense to us. And we're going to use the idioms.com to help us out. They say the phrase gained the most popularity in the United States around about the time of the mid-20th century, right after World War II. You see, World War II was a humongous conflict, and the United States alone lost almost 300,000 people. On top of that, thousands of soldiers who did survive came home having lost a limb in the fighting. Might have been an arm, might have been a leg, might have been both. But because of this, the phrase started being used to reference the incredible price someone would have to pay for something. In their case, the price they paid was for our freedom. But here's what I find so interesting. Whether we realize it or not, the phrase really honors those who made such a tremendous sacrifice so that we're able to live our lives the way we do in this country. And while we may casually throw it out there when the salesperson tells us the price of the new refrigerator we want, what you're really doing is citing a time in our history when we all came together to defeat a common enemy. And many who did so paid a heavy price. In fact, 291,577 of them paid for it by making the ultimate sacrifice. They don't call it the greatest generation for nothing, folks. I just hope that we, as a country, would be willing to do that again if we had to. So that's it. Episode 41 of Idioms is complete. And you know what else costs an arm and a leg? Children. They cost you your motivation, your future, your dignity sometimes, but it's all worth it, right? I'm your host, David Dyer. Thanks for listening. Check back for new episodes every Tuesday and Friday, but until then, I'll catch you on the flip side.